This talk is brought to you by UserPilot, the all-in-one tool for product, UX, customer success, and marketing teams. With analytics, in-app user onboarding and engagement, and in-app surveys.
Hi, everyone who just joined us. We are continuing our Product Drive Summit, and next up is the amazing Anthony Pierri. You have probably seen his viral LinkedIn posts on product positioning and messaging, and today he is going to help you clear up that confusing homepage and craft value propositions that truly resonate. Enjoy the talk.
How's it going? My name's Anthony Pierri. I'm a co-founder at Fletch PMM. We're a product marketing consultancy, and we primarily help early-stage B2B SaaS companies figure out their positioning, figure out their messaging, and then get that into a rewritten, clear homepage that will speak directly to your best fit customers. And so today we're going to go through our entire process that we've used with close to 300 companies at this point. So talking about how to rewrite your homepage with sharper positioning and messaging. Positioning really is answering 4 key questions. What is your product? Who is it for? What does it replace? And why is it better? And we really believe that positioning belongs on the homepage. Getting your positioning reflected in a homepage, it's a forcing function to make sure that everyone on your team is truly aligned on those answers to those questions. And it helps just align your customers and your internal teams and your investors that everyone is seeing the product in the same way. So rather than doing a strategy exercise and hiding your positioning away in some Google Drive folder, get it front and center on the homepage, and it will do wonders for your go-to-market. But the problem is homepages are almost always unclear. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you've probably seen some of these examples before. This is my absolute favorite. This is from ServiceNow. Put yes to work. Save or grow. Satisfy shareholders or satisfy customers when facing tough choices. Choose the one platform that lets you say yes to both. This to me is extremely unclear. It's very clever, but it doesn't actually answer any of those questions. I have no idea what ServiceNow is, who it's for, what it replaces, or why it's better. Some other good ones: software that keeps you running while you keep the world running. And then another great one: making smart smarter. Learn about our smarter solutions. These are signs that they actually have unclear positioning, because the clearness on your homepage, it's a barometer of how well you've thought through the positioning strategy. These are sort of the ways that you know you might have a positioning problem. So as I say these, see how many are true for you. Number 1, people read our website, but they don't understand what we do. That's really around clarity. Another one, people get what we do, but they don't get why they should pick us over the competition. That's really around not having strong differentiation. We're going after multiple segments. We don't know who to prioritize. That's really a strategy, go-to-market, even sometimes product strategy question. We need to educate the market on doing things a new way. That's kind of around category creation or bringing some sort of radically new workflow into the lives of our customers that requires some explanation and better positioning to make that make sense. We have multiple products. We're struggling how to explain the suite in a simple way. All of these are signs that you may, in fact, have a deeper positioning problem that can't be solved with better copywriting or better clever design. And so let's jump right in, and we're going to talk through how you can answer each of these core questions, starting with what is it? And as we go, we're going to be filling out the Fletch positioning and messaging canvas. We'll do it for Fletch as an example, as you can see how we would fill this out for us. But ultimately, you'll see this is the canvas where all of these questions the answers to these questions will live. So you can see what is it, who is it for? That really gets answered in this top row. What does it replace and why is it better? That gets answered in the second row. And then all the supporting messages that we would need in order to write a good homepage, that all gets covered in these sections below. So we'll start with what is it? Here's some ways that you should not answer the what is it question. First way is answering with an outcome. If I say to you, what's your product? And you say it's a great way to make your team more efficient, you actually haven't answered the question. And this is a common mistake, and we see this on so many SaaS companies' websites where they just lead with the outcome and support with other even smaller outcomes, and ultimately you read it and you don't understand what it is. It doesn't actually answer the question, what is it? Another one is answering with your mission statement. People can get so caught up in the pitch that they give to investors that they forget to ever explain what the thing is, right? What's your product? We're democratizing the logistics industry. It doesn't actually answer the question. Another one, what's your product? And then answering with your favorite feature. It's an AI platform. That's on thousands and thousands of websites right now, and it is actually not helping anyone understand what is it. There are, though, 2 good ways that you can answer the question, what is it? And the first way is to simply state what product category you're in, or to state the key use case that your product supports. And these represent deeper positioning strategies that we've called category-based positioning or use case-based positioning. We think we can be the best tool in an existing category, or we think we can be the best tool for an existing activity. So we'll go through each one. Category-based positioning was used by Figma in the early days. When they call themselves an interface design tool, that is an effective way to answer the question, what is it, when speaking to a product designer. And then at that point, it sets them up to talk about their differentiation. And that, unlike other interface design tools like Sketch and Adobe XD, Figma allowed multiple people to be editing the file at the same time. That's that collaborative piece to it, right? And if you're trying to figure out what product category you're in, just wait for one of your founders to say, we're so much more than a blank. And whatever that blank is, that is likely the product category that you're actually in. We often see that people are sometimes hesitant to take the category that they're in because they feel like they're so much better. I really am so much more than a scheduling tool if I'm the founder of Calendly. Sometimes that is actually just a sign that you have a 10x better advantage over the other people in your vendors, in your category. So don't run from the category that makes the most sense. Usually it's better to just embrace it and truly be 10x better. Here is a funny example. Mural, much more than a digital whiteboard. Surprise, they actually are a digital whiteboard. When you use the app, it is essentially a place you can put sticky notes, you can write all the stuff you could do on a real whiteboard, but on a digital whiteboard. Another good way to answer the question is to state your use case. Sometimes there are cases when there's not a great product category, right? Calendly couldn't really call themselves a scheduling tool at the beginning because nobody knew what a scheduling tool was. They couldn't really call themselves a calendar tool because they didn't actually have a calendar. So what they had to do is anchor on the use case, which was scheduling meetings. Again, a use case is an activity that a customer is performing that would be a great case study or a great place for you to use your products. You could say, wow, you're trying to schedule meetings back and forth. Calendly, that's a great use case for us. And so here's what use case positioning looks like. And the success of a use case-based positioning strategy really depends on hitting the right level of specificity, balancing the size of the market that would care about that use case and balancing the message effectiveness based on how detailed you can actually go. So if you think of a product like Slack, saying it is a tool for communicating or communication, it's an incredibly broad use case that has a massive market size. But it's so vague that the message effectiveness is almost zero. If I say, Slack's a great way to communicate, that's so vague that I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't really get it. It doesn't help me answer the question of what is it. And so you could punch down and you could say, communicating, well, let's break that up into team communication. And then we could break it up into design team communication. And then a specific aspect of design communication, running design reviews, all the way down to a specific workflow within design reviews, right? Reviewing wireframes for mobile. Highly effective message, but tiny, tiny market size. And so the goal is to find the right level of specificity where you say, we are a tool for blank, and it actually will answer the question, what is it? Then we can start to think about, well, who is this really for? Beyond the use case in the category, who specifically can we speak to? And this is where we get into things like segmentation. And there's tons of different ways that you can segment a market. You can do it by geography, by business model, by industry, by company type, by team, all these different focuses. We believe that there are 4 main ones that matter most for most B2B companies. The 2 you've already seen, use case and product category, are actually another way of answering who is this for. There are use cases that kind of define entire markets, as I'll show you in a second. There's categories. We could talk about the market for CRMs. That's a way to say who is it for, but you likely would want to go one level deeper and say this is for retail companies, this is for logistics companies, if you can, if that makes sense with your strategy, or this is for sales teams. It's likely that one of the departments in a company will be your best champion to bring you into the org and make the intros to the other people who need to get on board. They'll be more likely than other departments. You don't actually, though, need all 4 in order to make this strategy work. You at least need a use case or a product category, but you could take a company like Small PDF, where they went to market around a specific use case of reducing the size of a PDF without losing quality. And they just launched with this using an SEO-based strategy. When people would Google, shrink my PDF, they didn't really care what departments were using it or what company types or what categories. They just were targeting a use case-based segment, and they get roughly 45 million visits every single month. So you don't need all 4. You at least need one of the bottom 2, and the top 2 are just cherries on the top that can really help bring things together, right? And so for us, it becomes an exercise of just understanding what are the options of ways that we could position ourselves. So it can look like listing out what are the potential companies we could focus on. What are the potential departmental champions who might be good people to bring us into the org? What are the use cases that people would be most interested in? And what are the categories that they might put us in? Especially with this company type aspect, really it's a question of, do you want to be a vertical SaaS company? Do you want to be VSaaS? Or do you want to be more horizontal? If you're going more horizontal, you probably won't anchor on one of these company types. You might do it more on a department or a use case. This gives us answers to the top half of the canvas. What is it and who is it for, right? And so if you take Fletch, our company, we use a use case-based positioning strategy. Even though we do have a name for what category we're in, we're not saying, here's why we're the best product marketing consultants. We are more saying, here's why we are the best tool for this existing activity of adding new positioning to your homepage, figuring out how to position and bringing it to the homepage. And so for us, this is what these 4 pieces look like fleshed out. We know that we're going after early stage B2B SaaS companies. We know that we're targeting either the founder or the head of the marketing. And we know that we are product marketing consultants and we are focused on this specific use case. And so once you get this down, then you can start thinking about what do you replace and why are you better? So question 3, what does it replace? Which is another way of saying, who is your competitive alternative? There's different ways to do this. If you're taking a category-based positioning approach, your competitive alternative is other vendors in your category. So if you're folk and you say you are a CRM and you're taking a category-based strategy, you are anchoring against other CRMs. And this is exactly what they're doing. They're not saying this is a primary use case, some specific thing in a CRM that would be most impactful. What they're basically saying is for all of the use cases that a CRM could encompass, we are better than other vendors, other CRMs, because they're complicated and we are simple. So it is a category-based positioning strategy against other vendors in the category. If you're doing a use case-based positioning strategy, it's likely not going to be other vendors in your direct category because you're going to be in a less mature market. There may not be other people who do the exact same thing as you, who you could just say, here's why we're the best CRM. Take a company like User Evidence. Don't beg for case studies, get customer proof at scale. Their use case is collecting customer proof. There isn't like a dedicated customer proof collection tool in G2 that you could compare them to. It's an emerging market and they're trying to own it at the beginning. And so their competitive alternative is the current way that people collect customer proof. And most companies simply manually ask everyone for a case study or a quote or a testimonial. So you have to beg for them one by one is the problem. And so their differentiation is it allows you to get them from many companies at once. So this is what it looks like to choose a competitive alternative when you're doing use case-based positioning. And so once you have the enemy, whether it's another vendor or the way that people do it today, like through manual processes or stringing together multiple tools, whatever it might look like on the use case side, you now have to answer, why are you better? What is your key differentiation against the alternatives? And so there are 2 different types of differentiation you could choose from. One is what you would call binary differentiation. The other company does X, we do Y. And so you could see this with a company like DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo says search and browse more privately with DuckDuckGo's browser. Unlike Chrome and other browsers, we don't track you. So you can see what's happening is they're taking a category-based strategy against other browsers, and they're saying other browsers track your browsing data, and they say we don't do that. And this is very powerful because it's a real point of differentiation. Chrome will always track you. This is part of the business model. So if you're someone who values privacy, you will almost always choose DuckDuckGo over Chrome because it's a fundamentally difference between the 2 of them. On the flip side, you have something that we would call differentiation by degree. This is where you say we are better or faster or easier or cheaper than the other alternatives. And so when people talk about having a 10x difference, we're 10x better, this is what they're talking about when it's a differentiation by degree. Superhuman says we're the fastest email experience ever made. They're taking a category-based approach, anchoring against other email clients that are slow. Their argument is things like Chrome. It's hard to get through your inbox because it's so cluttered and there's not many keyboard shortcuts. We are fast. We can get you through your inbox a lot faster. This strategy works better if you can have some objective ways of measuring it. But again, both these strategies can work. It all kind of depends on what product you've created and the place that you are playing. And so when we get those things answered, we've gotten the top row, the second row, and the third row all sort of fleshed out. And so you could see this with us, right? We already talked about the top row. But when we talk about the use case of hiring Fletch to figure out the positioning, bring it to the homepage, Our competitive alternative is not other product marketing consultants, it's doing it yourself. And so the problem summary is that a lot of early stage companies do not have the product marketing talent in-house to be able to do this well. And our differentiation is that we have helped over 200, and that should be even closer to 300 early stage startups figure out the best way to position their product and have a proven process of translating that to a clear and compelling homepage. Below this is kind of, you can imagine if you're at a networking event, if you had more time to make the argument, what other things would you say to prove that this is actually true? Because we could just say this, but unless I actually flesh it out, it won't necessarily be believable. And so when you start to bring this out, you want to start with the capabilities and features and benefits that are most interesting to this target department or company type or segment that you're going after related to either the use case or the product category. So for us, because we're at the use case, what would be the most compelling things related to this use case? And another way of saying it is, where is the biggest problems with trying to do this yourself? And so for us, we've seen over and over and over again that for people trying to do it yourself, there really are three really hard parts of that process. Figuring out who to target, choosing what features to highlight, and by extension, what to de-emphasize, and then figuring out how to bring that all onto a homepage. So we walk out, here's why that's so difficult to do it. And then here are the capabilities of our process that allow us to do it better and make it easier for you, and the features that power it, and the benefits of the outcomes that are resultant from doing it with us rather than doing it yourself. And figuring out the benefits is often a reversal of the problem. So for example, just to walk out one full end-to-end piece, right? If you're trying to do it yourself, you're trying to add the new positioning to the homepage, you first got to figure out who am I going to target. And the problem is, because you're pre-product market fit, you've got tons of different segments that could potentially use your product. So finding that focus is very difficult. Our capabilities, we help you understand the options of marketable segments and give you the criteria to help you make the decision of who to choose. And the way that we do that, the features that power that are these product marketing audit that we run and the recommendations that we provide on these workshops. And the benefit is that you'll feel confident that you're messaging at the right level of specificity to anchor your go-to-market strategy. So if I had more time, then I would go through and make the other arguments. And then all of these elements will get represented in different sections on the homepage. So obviously, you'll have lots of sections. Homepages become extremely modular and cover lots of different ground. But if you can cover these 5, you will be in really good shape. So the first one that I want to talk about is what we would call the hero or the above the fold section. This is where you're going to bring in things like this top row and this bottom row, ideally answering as many of those 4 questions as you can in the first scroll. And you have these sort of elements to play with of ways to different frame it, right? So you have the H1 headline, which is kind of the main argument. You have the H2 supporting information. You have buttons, these would be called CTAs or calls to action. You can have an area of social proof, and then ideally you want to talk about the product. And then you even have something like the nav bar, and this is places where you can direct people to other things. Like these are kind of the standard things that would come in any hero section. And ultimately, how you fill this out is going to be different depending on the strategy. There's not one size fits all, that you always put the outcome up here, you always put the capability up here, you always put the segment up here. You're going to want to play around with different arrangements, putting different elements in different spots, right? You might want to lead with the problem. You might want to lead with the differentiation. You might want to lead with the product category that you're in, or the use case. There's going to be different ways to play with it, but you want to get those answers to those 4 questions, as many of them as you can, in the first section. So I'll give you an example. This is a company we worked with called Lemlist. They took a category-based approach, so they were positioned against other cold outreach tools. And so we discovered that their biggest differentiation was the fact that they could guarantee that emails would get sent and delivered. Other cold email outreach tools, they have all sorts of amazing features for drafting them, for building lists, but they can't guarantee that the emails will actually make it into the inboxes of the people they're trying to reach. And so the whole concept, they have this whole proprietary way that they do, they call it email warming, which really gets the email delivered. So that was kind of the angle we took in the hero. And so the only cold outreach tool that helps you get reach inboxes and get replies. And then they support it with some other use cases and capabilities and things like that. But that's really trying to answer that question, what do you replace and why are you different? And then from here, we go to the next section, which we would call differentiation, which is really trying to summarize what is the problem of the alternative. So this can be framed as a problem and solution, us versus them, the old way, new way. And ultimately, it will look something like this. This is what Lemlist had. Cold outreach won't help you quickly acquire customers if you, A, have no idea if your list of email addresses is reliable, spend hours manually personalizing your emails, and wondering if your emails are getting delivered at all. And then from here, the second half of that differentiation we call maybe the solution intro. This is where you just start to actually point out, all right, well, that's the problem. here's how we do it differently. And you reintroduce the product, and you can include things that you weren't able to fit in the hero. You can get them in the solution intro. So here's Lemlist. Discover Lemlist, the only sales automation tool that ensures your emails are delivered and get a response. From here, we move into the capability highlight sections, and you might call this the 15-second product demo. Knowing that people engage with homepages, they scroll through them very quickly. They're not really reading everything in depth. They're just scanning. We want to make an argument that supports the differentiation we showed in the upper sections with actual product features and functionality to make it believable, right? The devil is in the details. You can promise all sorts of outcomes and ROI. If you can't back it up by showing how the product solves it, people will not be interested. And so with Lemlist, this is sort of what that can look like. Build the perfect lead list with verifiable email addresses. Let Lemlist help write and personalize your emails, and ultimately will keep you out of the spam folder, showing specific parts of the product and exactly how they accomplish the differentiation that they put up at the top. And if you really want to deep dive in all the different sections, because beyond these 5, it gets very modular, as I was saying. You can bring in things like full page testimonials. Maybe you have a page for the enterprise. Maybe you want to link out to other landing pages. Maybe you need to bring up an FAQ or resources or other CTAs, things like that. I have a really big deep dive on my LinkedIn. It is 35 pages long in a carousel. It goes through tons of real examples. So would encourage you to check that out. And I would also say, as homework, try to fill out this canvas based on your own website to evaluate how clear is your positioning. If you were just reading your own page and pretend that you didn't know all the background of your company, could you fill out this whole canvas? And you will likely start to realize that there are big question marks all over. And so this can be your rubric to start punching it up, making it better, and bringing those specific arguments front and center and aligning your teams around the positioning. So thank you so much for listening. Again, my name's Anthony Pierri. If you want to connect, feel free to shoot me an invite on LinkedIn. I connect with almost everyone. Unless you're like blatantly trying to sell me something, I would probably connect with you and probably will send you a message to start up a conversation. And if you wanted to work with us at our company, it's fletchpmm.com. Thanks so much.
This talk was brought to you by UserPilot, the all-in-one tool for product, UX, customer success, and marketing teams.